Actually, afternoon. I almost said good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Recovery Summit presentation, Learning How to Walk in Recovery. This webinar is a part of a series hosted annually by St. Clair County Community Mental Health during the month of September, which is National Recovery Month. Today's session is being recorded, and after the session today will be uploaded on the St. Clair County Community Mental Health YouTube channel for future reference. Please feel free for everyone that's here. If you have any questions for our presenter at any time during the presentation, use the chat box for all questions, comments, or anything else, and our presenter will be answering questions as the presentation goes on and as time allows. Just a note too, for those of you that are requesting continued education credits, they are offered for today's presentation. If you are requesting professional credits, you must make sure you remain on the webinar for the entire time and also complete the survey at the end of the presentation, which will pop up for you to get credit. For any reason you get kicked off or have any tech issues, just go ahead and log back on so we can give you credit for attending. So with that, I'm going to introduce our presenter today, and very, very excited to introduce Sue Nehorn. Sue is not only a coworker that I've really gotten to know, really like Sue. She's super awesome and so grateful for her to be able to present today. Sue's a married mother of 8. She was previously a foster parent to many children. Sue has worked with children, and she started working with children when she started working in the mental health field. Before we wrote this introduction, we said that Sue was studying to become a Michigan peer support specialist, but she just informed us that she passed all of her classes, credentialing, and she is now a certified peer support specialist in the state of Michigan. So congratulations to Sue. She works currently at St. Clair County Community Mental Health in our integrated dual disorder treatment team here. She is currently, again, as I had said, a Michigan certified peer recovery coach, which she just passed everything for. So she's all set with that. Lots of studying, lots of hard work. And this has led Sue to want to share her recovery story with others. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and introduce Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Adrian.
Great. And hi to everyone out there again. Hopefully it's a beautiful afternoon out. I think they said we're not supposed to get rain down in this part of Michigan for like another how many days. So I'm sure everyone, if you have flowers left blooming, everybody's got to get out there and keep them watered to keep them going. So great. And congratulations on passing and getting everything done with schooling and getting your certification, Sue. That's a lot of work. And we're going to sort of talk about what that entails too.
Thank
So
you.
I was able to share a little bit of your background. Anything else that you want to share? Maybe even repeat that we talked about, Sue, a little bit of your background or anything else.
Yes, I have always lived in Michigan, and I grew up in Snowbird, a small little town. I am a farm girl, and I love to be outside and be with animals. I would much rather do that than be in the house cleaning and cooking. And I also have a ninth kid this year. I have an exchange student from Germany living with us for 10 months. Yeah. And taking the certified coach class was for me, because I'm a little bit more mature in age. It was a lot of work, but very worth it. And I learned a lot, and I'm very excited to use what I learned in that class.
Excellent. We're going to talk about your role as a recovery coach and the things that you do here at CMH. And one of the roles and the things that we hope to accomplish today is for someone living in recovery to be able to share their story. So if we can go ahead and just, talk a little bit about, maybe even start from early on, Sue, if you wouldn't mind talking about, as a youth and as an adolescent, what were some of the key challenges and things that you faced early on in life, or whatever you'd like to share about that?
I grew up with divorced parents, and back to my parents were already split up when my mother got pregnant with me. Um, and I grew up just kind of feeling like I was the child that wasn't supposed to happen. And my biological father was an alcoholic. And so I spent most of the time with my mother and my stepfather. And my stepfather was an amazing man. I say he probably saved my life. He was a good man. He ended up adopting me when I was older, but he was in my life since I was 3. And so with all of those things happening at a young age. I grew up just feeling very insecure, um, just always looking for validation from other people. Um, when I would be around people, I would be whoever they wanted me to be. And then I would go to the next person and I would be who they wanted me to be. And, that catches up with you after a while, and you got to be a lot of different people. And so it, it just got really hard in my teen years. I had shingles when I was 3 years old. I ended up in the hospital, and had a lot of scars on my leg from that. And so I was very self-conscious of that and wouldn't ever wear shorts. And so I started to self-harm. And when I was about 14, I started to self-medicate with alcohol.
There I am. Talk a lot, talked about being an adolescent and all the sort of just general insecurities that any adolescent or any child that would have, and then compounding different things going on at home. And then, like you said, you had something going on with shingles, which then led to some scarring on legs. And as a young girl, that probably had to be so tough, kind of adding to that insecurity and other things. I know I had chicken pox at 15, and my body has a lot of scars on it. And that's tough. It's a tough thing for a kid to go through when they're that age. Yeah. Okay. So you said that you had started drinking at what age, Sue?
14.
Okay. All right. And what did that look like with the pattern? What kind of ways did it impact your life with use? What kind of barriers? How did you see that kind of progressing with using it, even as an adolescent? What did you see and what did you experience?
I remember the first time that I drank enough to feel the effects of it. And I just remember thinking, I can be me. I grew up being incredibly shy. And when I would drink, I was suddenly not shy. And I was like, this is who I'm supposed to be. This is who I'm meant to be. And I could only do that when I was under the influence. And because I was the youngest, I have two brothers, older brothers, and then I have a older sister, an older stepsister, and an older half sister. And I was the baby. And my parents, I would go to the roller rink, and then my parents would let me go. And as long as my brothers picked me up from the roller rink, they didn't care what time I got home. So I was out with my brother and their friends, and they were in high school, and I would drink and come home at 4 when they did. And my parents, they did not care.
Yeah.
They did not care.
So you said, some of the drinking started was actually sort of that liquid courage that we talk about a lot in recovery and with substance use. And I think a lot of people who don't even have the challenge of maybe, detrimental use can all attest to the fact that everyone realizes, sometimes we do smoke something or drink something just for that liquid courage, just to be able to be yourself. And you said that really kind of helped you be yourself.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So how did it kind of escalate from there? What kind of problems did it have in your life, and when did it become problematic? At what point did it become problematic? If you could share a little history about that.
I got married when I was 19 to a man who was 19 years older than me. I did have dad issues. And I immediately wanted to start a family. And so I had 3 children. And I, I don't know. I used to always say, I'm never going to be like my dad. I will never be like him. Of all of us kids, I was the one who was very adamant that I was never going to be an alcoholic like him. And so it started out just, once I turned 21, I was married to an older man, and we would go to dinner and we would have drinks, and it was fun. And all of a sudden, when I realized it was a problem, then it was too late for me to stop. You know what I mean? Like it had taken a hold of my entire life,
Mm-hmm.
And I had 3 small children at that time, and my husband and I at that time, we separated because he did not want me to drink anymore. And I did not think that I had a problem. So but it just became this cycle because by then I was getting depressed. I was getting very, um, like just having periods of isolation. Um, and so it became a cycle of I would get depressed, so I would drink, and then I would drink, so I would get depressed. You know what I mean? It just was a cycle that I couldn't get off. And I was at the bar one night, and I remember I was standing in this. I have a bad memory, but I remember this feeling that night so vividly. I was standing there with a room full of people who said, were my friends. And I remember standing there thinking, I've never been more lonely in my life. Um, my kids were at their dad's house. And it was 2 weeks after my 30th birthday. And I felt very helpless and hopeless. Like I didn't want to, I mean, I say I was suicidal, but I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to feel like I didn't want to hurt anymore. I didn't want to feel like I was feeling anymore. But like I said, it had a hold on me and I could not stop on my own. I knew that I couldn't. So I drove to my ex-husband, we were still married, but I drove to his home. I was still on his insurance. And I said to him, I need help. And he said, what kind of help? And I said, he said, you have to say it. And I said, I need help to stop drinking. I can't do it. And the next day we called and I still had to wait. That was on a Thursday. I had to wait till Monday to get into treatment. And my mom and my stepdad drove up here from Florida and took my kids back to Florida with them. And that like just almost broke me, so I remember them waving goodbye, and my ex and I had gotten in a fight, and I went in the house and I sat down and I wrote goodbye letters to my kids, to all three of them. And just because I just felt like they're going to be better off without me, because what are they going to tell me in treatment that's going to help me stop? I can't stop myself. At that point before I would get my kids up for school, which I did every morning. I was a functioning alcoholic, but I had to have a few beers in the morning before I could get them up so that I wasn't shaking. And, but I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to stop. There was no way. And even though my ex-husband and I were in a fight, it was like he knew. He just pulled in the driveway and he said, get in the car. And he drove me around that weekend, never said a word, never talked to me, just let me drink as much as I wanted until he dropped me off at treatment that following Monday. And then I went there, and it changed my life, because I found out there's other people who feel like me. I'm not alone. And that was a pretty incredible feeling. And when I got out of treatment, I went home and I laid on my couch for a week. And I stayed in my pajamas, and they told me to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, but I was scared to death that if I got dressed and I left my house, I was going to go to the bar. I was very, very afraid of that happening. And I'm vain, so I wouldn't leave my house unless I got all done up, hair, makeup done. So after about a week, someone that I knew somebody in AA, and so they called and said it was on a Friday, we're coming to pick you up. And I went to a meeting, and after that I did what they told me. I couldn't, this is kind of talking about learning to walk. I couldn't walk by myself. I had to have help at that point. I still I still felt broken. I still felt depressed. And taking the alcohol away wasn't the only thing that I needed to work on, that I had going on. And I got into therapy, which was also like treatment. It was life-changing for me. And I was able to talk about a traumatic event that happened in my childhood that I had pushed, stuffed down so far, and took someone that I really trusted to talk about it too. That became my life. My oldest daughter, she's 32. She always used to tell me, Mom, when you commit to something, you go 100%. whatever if you're going to go to AA, you're going to go to AA every day. You're going to get involved in the activities. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. When I started running, she's like, you're not just going to go do a 5K, you're going to do a half marathon. And so she always said that about me. And, I take that as a compliment. But
sure.
I did that. I did that with AA and NA as well. I had to immerse myself in it because those people got me. My mom told me once, like, she came up from Florida and asked me to go do something with her. And I said, I will. I have to go to this meeting and it's only 1 hour, and then I'll come back and do that. And she said that's a cult. They've brainwashed you. And I was like, well, you know what? If it is, that's okay, because I'm way better off now than I was then,
And I appreciate the fact that you said too, like, that when you sort of hit that point where you reached out to your ex-husband and said, I need help, it wasn't a matter of I need help and then you're in treatment an hour later. You had to wait throughout a whole weekend. You had to make plans for your kids. Like, there were so many different sort of challenges and things before that. Can you speak to that at all? Because a lot of people, even support systems, right? If I'm supporting someone and I want to help someone get help, it's not always an overnight thing, right?
Absolutely not. And that's one thing that I wish it wasn't like that, because in the department that I work, we have a lot of people who, when you make the decision to go into treatment, you gotta get them while they want to go, kind of. And a lot of our people have to wait. And it's so unfortunate because sometimes, they might say on a Friday that they want to go to treatment and we can't get them until Monday. And so then on Monday, you can't find them. You can't always find them, or they don't make their ride that they were supposed to meet. So yeah, I feel like that's really unfortunate that people have to wait like that. I wish they didn't.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to us as human beings, is that if we're motivated to do something, it's important to keep that motivation because it can fizzle out so quick. I mean, whether it be something as simple as cleaning out your closet or something as complex, right, as wanting to starting that recovery journey. And it's so quick for that maybe flame or fire to get dwindled or diminished. And you had mentioned that your ex-husband actually did things during that space and time that was helpful to you, and didn't critique and didn't and let you kind of do your thing and be yourself before you were actually able to go. What kind of things do you tell either individuals or maybe supports or anything, if it's saying, okay, you're going to go, but it might not be for a couple of days, any kind of words of advice or things that you can give either the individuals that are trying to keep that motivation up or the family and friends to be able to support that individual?
I would say, just to be there and not being judgmental. And people who do not understand this disease, sometimes, it's easy for them to judge. And, I didn't want to be an alcoholic, and I know that, the individuals that I work with, right now, like, I know they're hurting and that this is not, the life that they want to live. And, sometimes our family members sometimes are the biggest critics, because they know it's better. And, my mom used to say, better than this. And, I'm going to take your kids away. And, threats are not, those are not going to get anyone to get clean or sober, right? And judging someone, but just being patient and, just checking them and making sure that they're okay. Sometimes just saying, are you okay? And do you need anything? Says a lot.
The other interesting thing that you mentioned is during that space and time before going into recovery, you drank during that time. He didn't, your ex didn't say stop drinking or you're not going to drink this weekend, and didn't act as that recovery catalyst, left it up to sort of the professionals. That's interesting that you mentioned that. So I'm wondering if you can, how did that help you or support you?
It was just what I needed, because he knew that I love to be outside and I love horses. And so we literally just drove up and down dirt roads. And we would stop and I would get out and smell some flowers, or I would get out, we'd see a horse and I would get out and I would just go up and, I think I cried the entire weekend because I was just so tired, feeling like I felt, but felt very defeated. Like this, I'm going to go to treatment and these people are going to talk about their problems, and then suddenly I'm not going to want to drink. Like I just couldn't, I couldn't grasp that idea. But he didn't even, he just drove me around and let me stop and, and drink. Bless his
Mhm.
heart.
Mhm, mhm. And I
Yeah,
mean, how
and
much that was very non-judgmental, right? In that way. I mean, non-judgmental isn't always just what we say. A lot of times it can be our actions. It could be if we're listening to someone and our arms are crossed, right? It's just so many different ways that we express judgment. And that was one way not to do that. That was very helpful for you, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And he's uh, still to this day one of my best friends. Like
Mhm.
he and my current husband, we all co-parented my three older kids. We have all done a really good job of raising them, and
Mhm.
so yeah.
I think that's great that you shared that because so many times families, friends, those supports just don't know what to do in a moment, especially a gap like
Mhm.
that before treatment. And you had mentioned that, you didn't have a lot of hope until you stepped at the facility and you were able to get started on your recovery journey. And one of the things that we share in recovery is that a lot of times, sometimes it's the other people around us that hold the hope for us, right? So, with that being said, you had talked about some of your supports and how they've helped you in your role of recovery. And we know supports can be everything from family to friends to support professionals to neighbors to faith-based, things like that, babysitters, whatever those supports are. How else has your support system kind of played a role in your recovery?
It has changed over the years. It started out AA and NA were my support. I would go there every day, and they were my support. Um, and it's changed over the years. Some of my family tried to help and understand to the best of their ability. Um, but now I hang out with like-minded people. Um, I like to hang out with people who make me feel good, make me laugh. And Saturday, I was at the Recovery Fest. And yesterday, I was at the Walk a Mile in Lansing. And this Saturday, I'm going to the NAMI Walk down in Detroit. If anyone would like to go with, I will drive you. Um, little plug.
Little plug.
And so just being around people who are like-minded people. Like I said at the Recovery Fest on Saturday and also yesterday, I looked around and I was just amazed that there were so many people there. Everyone was so happy and in a good mood, and everyone there, like, they get me. They think like me, and it's just a very comforting feeling. And I used to feel like I was so different and all alone. And to be around all those people, I realized that I'm not alone and I'm not so different. We want to help each other, and we made bad decisions, but we're not bad people. Um, so yeah.
A lot of opportunities. You had talked about Walk a Mile, Recovery Fest, which we have people sort of all over the state of Michigan attending. So, what is Recovery Fest? What does that mean for our area? Could you just share on that just a little bit?
Yeah, BW Rock put that on Saturday up at Pine Grove Park, and they did a phenomenal job. They had a 5K. They had a lot of vendors, food vendors. We had CMH had a tent there giving out information. I was able to talk to a lot of people. Um, and what else did they have? They had a ball tournament between the firemen and the church and the police and recovery team.
Mhm.
Just to show that people can get together and have fun, and it doesn't have to involve
Yeah, yeah.
drugs and alcohol.
Right, right. And so we have that in St. Clair County, the Recovery Fest, and the state has a Walk a Mile and all of these other things. And even though other areas may not have a Recovery Fest, there's a lot of different versions and different kind of things like that throughout different communities. What would be maybe some advice you would have to someone, A, that's in recovery that might be hesitant to take part in something like that, maybe because of stigma, maybe because of not feeling comfortable, maybe it's again that person that's like, I don't want to get off the couch and I have to make sure, I made up, like how you were feeling. Any kind of encouragement that you could give, because that also helps the supports, right? So anything that you can give for that.
Absolutely. I would say just, I mean, if you can find one person, I mean, and a lot of information you can get online, for any area you live in. But I would just say, if you can find one person, and then that person's going to lead you to another person and another person. That's happened because I was so shy. I would find one person and I would latch onto that person. And and then as I got sober and as my mind cleared a little and I could like take my hair off my eyes and not be so shy, I would meet another person and then another person, and the next thing I know, I'm laughing and having fun, and and I've made a lot of friends that way. But I just think that just start with one person.
That's really a good point, because a lot of people may feel so overwhelmed, or being around crowds or things like that may be difficult, but finding that one person to connect to just be there and be present is so important. Very cool. So if we could go back and talk a little bit more about your recovery journey, because you had said that you had checked into a long-term facility for some help. Someone had asked, during that time, was that the one time that you had gone into a facility, or did you have any relapses? Was it sort of, what did your journey look like that? Or did you have any relapses, or were you able to move forward from there?
I went in one time and I have not, by the grace of God, gone back. I remember when I was there and I was sitting in one of the classes, and they said that they looked around, and I don't know how many people were in there, but they said that 1 out of 4 of you will not be back. The other 3 will be back here again. And I remember sitting there and I was like, I am not coming back here. I am going to be that one. And I was stubborn enough that, so far I have not found any reason to make me want to go back to that life.
Mhm. And so what would you say, or what is some piece of advice, or what would you say to those other 3, the folks that do go back, or the supports to those people that go back, that might be beating themselves up or feeling like they're not making any steps towards their recovery? What's some words of advice or things you could, say to them?
It takes what it takes.
Mhm.
I'm kind of like a sponge. When I went there, I just like, first of all, I was shy, so I didn't talk to anyone really. And so I just like, I'm a sponge and I listened. And, if it takes you 18, 20 times to go back, you hear something every time. And it takes what it takes. I've known people who've gone back to treatment 15 times and then all of a sudden something clicked, and and they got clean and sober. And and there's other pathways. Like, treatment's not the only pathway to getting clean. Not everyone has to go to treatment. That's what worked for me, but that's not the only avenue.
Mhm. Someone had mentioned, as I'm just going through the chats too, that they utilize Hope Not Handcuffs to help bridge that waiting gap that you had talked about, working
Mhm.
people into getting into treatment same day for the exact reason. And I know that we utilize Hope Not Handcuffs in our area as well too, which has been a really great program around. Okay. Um, Speaking of, coping strategies, what kind of coping strategies have you used during your recovery, including times of challenges and setbacks during your recovery? What are some of your go-to things? What are also some things that you share as a recovery coach working with other individuals?
Well, when I got out of treatment, their big thing was journaling and meditation. And I have tried those things, and I would love to say that I'm good at or succeed at that, but I don't. I think I'm too ADHD or something. I can't sit still. I try to meditate, and my brain has just got too many tabs open at all times. So, but I do recommend that because some people can do it and it works very well for them. I therapy was for me like the first thing that I had to do. I had to take medication because I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and so I had to be okay with taking medication. Um, Talking to people who I know have my best interest at heart. Talking to some of my family members was not always the best that's not always the best for me. Sometimes it takes me back to my childhood and to some of my trauma, and it's funny because it can come like one little thing. Someone can talk to me in a certain voice. Like I don't do well if someone like yells at me or is stern with me. If you come at me a little bit softer, um, and that's just some of my childhood trauma, but it can come back very quick. Another coping, I would say, is the way that I talk to myself. I did not talk nice to myself, obviously, before, and I can still go back there. Now before I did this, I was, like, who's going to want to hear me? Who's going to want to listen to me? I don't have anything to say, but when I say those things, and I say this to the individuals that I work with, when I say something not nice about myself, I need to back it up with something nice about myself. And I have like sticky notes on my mirror at home. When I first got sober, I had sticky notes on everything. My coffee pot, like everything had little notes that like, you are worthy, you are kind, you are, just things to I just had to learn to like myself. I did not like myself, and I had to learn how to like myself at 30 years old. And it was not easy, but definitely worth it. Getting outside, I love to get outside and ground myself. If I can go outside and put my feet on the grass, that always helps. What else? What else?
I like the idea of what you said about putting up sticky notes and post-it notes, because I always think to myself, I don't think I would ever say to another human being some of the things that I say to myself. Like I would never talk to someone and I think a lot of us can say that. Like, would you ever say to another human being some of the things that we say to ourselves because we're not nice to ourselves? But I like the fact that you said I use the post-it notes. And I'm just thinking, as a person that might be supporting someone in recovery, like myself, what a nice like gesture to give someone maybe just a pack of post-it notes, right? To gift someone, a pack of post-it notes, and encouraging them to be able to, and maybe writing one or two things on our own to be able to gift that person and encouraging them to do it. So that's a really cool skill that I think gets underutilized. That's really impressive. You also talked about a little while back, and this is part of your role, if you want to talk about your role as a peer recovery coach and what that means. And you also had mentioned the pathways of recovery, which a handful of people may know about. But if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, what's your role as a peer recovery coach, and then how the pathways of recovery sort of have a piece to it and how that plays a role as well.
My role as a recovery coach. So I work in the IDDT department at CMH, and I work with people who are dual diagnosed with major depressive. They're either mental health or substance use, and I feel like just because I've been where they're at, I just relate to people, and I also think I'm kind of like the mom. I come along with a little bit of the softer side to them, and and I don't like when I first started in AA, they said a lot, if I can do it, you can do it. And I like I like to say better, like, I did it. Let me take your hand and you walk beside you and show you how I did it. You know what I mean? And my way is not the only way. And there's many ways. And, let me just help you, and you can hopefully find your way. That's some of what I do, just meeting with people, just trying to sometimes I get to share my story, which is pretty amazing. I never thought I would have a job where I would be able to do that. When I got this job, I had to change my resume, and it was very weird to like be able to put down what I thought were my biggest deficits. I got to put down as my assets, and it was really cool to be able to do that. So, and when I work with our people, like, we have to meet them where they're at, we have to meet our people where they're at. Not people, a lot of our individuals are not ready to go to treatment. The ones that I work with are not ready to go to treatment. And so we just meet them where they're at. And, you know, I look at it like I go and maybe I plant a little seed, and then the case manager for that individual goes in that week and they plant a little seed, or another peer goes and the clinician plants a little seed. And, you know, then they might not go to treatment, but then the following week when we meet with them again, we get to water that seed with a little bit more, and, you know, and just keep trying to help them grow, and, you know, hope that they get it, you know. I
That's
love what I
amazing. Yeah,
do.
that's very cool. And throughout the state of Michigan over the past handful of years, peer recovery coaches, certified peer recovery coaches are really growing in a lot of places and a lot of agencies and different things. What when you mentioned treatment isn't the only pathway to recovery, and there's other pathways, and I sure as like a recovery coach, if someone's not ready for treatment, you then look at the other pathways of recovery and how to support them. What are the other pathways, and what do those pathways look like?
Some people use, you know, church or religion. Some use, like BWRAC has a lot of different, not just AA and NA. They have a lot of other, you know, other things that they offer there. Um, there's many, you know, spiritual, gosh, I just had this on my exam. I should know that. My teacher doesn't watch this.
That's all right. You're not going to get graded on this one too,
Okay.
so you're all good to
I
go.
told you I have a terrible memory.
Yeah, that's all right. But like you said, it's treatment's not the only pathway to recovery, and there's so many different things that are there. So, you know, you talked about it. If you work with a lot of people that are working through their journey of recovery, what kind of advice or other things, you've covered some already, would you give someone that is struggling about believing in the possibility that recovery is even possible?
I would, you know, if you can just keep getting them, I mean, not like I'm talking in general, not just people who come here to our agency, but just if they can have one person in their life who is not judging them, who's just meeting them where they're at and just listens and shows love, I think that that goes a long way, a long way. Uh, and I just think that we judge ourselves enough. I was judging myself enough, and I just needed one person to get me through that weekend. You know, and I loved my kids, my three kids at the time. That's all I had at that time, but I loved them. Oh, and but I couldn't stop drinking for them. And my mom threatening to take them from me was not enough to make me stop drinking. And, you know, losing my husband was not enough to make me stop drinking. Um, I lost myself, you know, I was losing myself. And so, to have him listen that weekend, and then when I, you know, went to treatment, to have just getting into therapy and having someone that really listens to you, and, that you, when you get comfortable and you can share things with them, and then you get to be the real you. You don't have to wear a mask around people and anymore. You know, I don't have to be this person for you and this person for you. I've, you know, learned to just get to be me.
Mhm. You had mentioned how important it is to be around people that aren't, you know, judging you or judging someone. And, you know, a lot of supports mean well and want to do well, and maybe do things like threaten because they love someone so much, or because they have so much fear within themselves. Any kind of things that you can think of, and I'm kind of thinking outside of the box right now, but things that you've heard, either experienced in your life or heard from other people, that supports do, that they think that they're helping, but it's not necessarily helping, and maybe what they can do instead or in place of. Like someone threatening, I'm going to take away your kids if you don't stop, not something that's helpful. So, what are some of the things that you really encourage supports to try not to do? Because we're all human. We're going to do them if we're scared and we love someone, but things that we could try not to do, or things that we could do instead.
Well, the threatening is not, I don't feel is helpful. Judging is not helpful. Um, I, you know, I feel like sometimes we just got to do it on our own. Like,
Mhm.
I know that some parents are want to just, I remember, and my oldest daughter won't mind me saying this, I know that, but she has 2 years sober. And, everybody would say to me, why don't you talk to her? Why don't you tell her? Like, you've been where she's at. Why don't you tell her? And I said, because if I tell her, she will just laugh. She will push me away and not talk to me. Like, she has to get it when she can get it, get when she can get it. I knew that I needed to just stay set back and sometimes we have to let them have their pain. It's hard when it's your child, but sometimes I think parents get um, too involved and they think that it's in a loving way. And it's not always helpful. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to do it until I was ready. Didn't matter who told me or threatened me, but I just think that being loving, I'm just come from a place of, you know, being softer and kinder. And that's what worked for me.
Mhm.
So,
No, that makes a lot of sense. Just it really seems like a lot of patience is part of it, which families and supports a lot of times are burnout or frustrated or scared. And it's always not an easy thing to have patience in situations like that. And probably encouraging supports and family to do a lot of self-care and other things might be helpful too. Any advice or anything that you encourage those support systems to be able to do for their care?
I mean, yeah, they can do the same things that I just said that I do for self-care, meditate, journaling, but I know that there's meetings out there. I know, like, when my daughter was going through her stuff, I had one person that I trusted, and that was, who I talked to about it. But talking to someone else instead of the person that you want to get clean or sober, I think is important. Because we're carrying our own stuff. I was carrying my own stuff. I didn't need to carry my mom's too. I was
Mhm.
carrying my own guilt. I didn't need to carry her guilt and her anger and stuff like that.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So in your recovery journey, what kind of things do you do to be able to stay motivated? Or is it just, and I know I'm being kind of sarcastic about this in a nice way, but is it simple every day then just from here on out? Or are there a lot of things that you have to do to stay motivated? And what supports you in your journey? And is it a journey still every day for you?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm not all better. I still, like I said, I can still be very hard on myself. I can still, um, feel less than. I can walk in a room and I feel like I read people really well. And so I can walk in a room and I can be like, nobody, that person does not like me. I know that that person doesn't like me, and so I can still go back to that. And I will tell you that I've had some challenging things happen in my years of recovery because life doesn't just all of a sudden it's not all roses all of a sudden, it just all of a sudden doesn't get all better. And so I've had some challenges that have come up. And I will tell you that even 23 years later, when something big comes up that I have a hard time coping with it, my first thought is, I know how to make this not hurt. And my first thought is, I want to go and drink. I want to drink enough so that I don't have to feel this. And that is always, it's still my first thought. And, I thank God, think that all the way through. And I know what will happen because I will wake up the next morning and that bad thing is still going to be there. But then I'm going to have to pick up that cycle again and drink again, to deal with the depression that I'm going to have. And then I'll be back in that cycle and I don't want to go there again. So yeah, life is not all of a sudden, things, life still happens.
Mm-hmm. You talked about early on when you had just started the webinar and a few different times, it talked about the intersection of mental health and substance use, and that you were able to recognize that you were feeling depressed in different things. Is that something that folks commonly see? Is that intersection of mental health and substance use? Because again, folks may not always recognize the connection, whether you're a supporter, whether you're an individual on your journey of recovery.
This is my opinion. I feel like they go hand in hand, and I don't know which one for me came first. and it doesn't really matter, but I feel like they are hand in hand. Like I feel like when we have mental health condition, I feel like it's hard, it's hard to deal with. And we think and act differently than so-called normal people. And so we use, there's something in us. I come from a long family of alcoholics on both my mom and dad's side. And even though I didn't grow up with my biological father. I didn't live in his home. I was around him a little bit, but I didn't live in his home. And, but I still ended up just like him. And, but yeah, I think that they do go hand in hand. That's personally, I feel like that, but I don't think that a lot of people know that. I didn't realize that until I got sober. Then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, it's not, the alcohol wasn't the only problem. Why do I still have these feelings of, self-doubt, I still felt those feelings, they were still there. And so I just had to learn how to walk through that.
So recovery journey isn't just substance use or just mental health. It can be an intersection of both, and both of them are so important. Do those pathways of recovery, are they for both mental health and substance use, or is it pathways of recovery just for substance use?
No, I believe it's for both. But I feel like for me, CMH is like the place to be, obviously, but like, I mean, no, there's other pathways. This doesn't work for everyone. Everyone is different. Everyone has to find their own way.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and read them off. And as we're moving forward again with Sue's role as a peer recovery coach and her journey of recovery, if anybody has any questions for Sue, feel free to go ahead and put them in. So someone had asked Sue, did you ever have anyone who just stopped interacting with you because of the disease? And then how did you manage?
Yes, I did. In fact, that bar full of people that I talked about early on, with all of those friends, they were people I drank with every day. Like I lived a half a mile away from the bar, and then I worked there. It was the perfect place to work when you are an alcoholic. I never missed a day. But those people, when I remember the day that I left and I told them I was going to rehab, I was like, I'll be back. I'll be back to see all of you, and they were like, okay, we'll be here. And then I never saw any of them again. I've not seen them, like, and there are people who, like people that were my friends, and they want to continue to drink. They don't think that I have a problem, because if I have a problem, that might mean they also have a problem. And so I've lost some people, but I've gained many more.
Part of the recovery journey. Right?
Yeah.
Someone had asked, and again, your opinion and your thoughts. Did you feel that the 12-step principles were beneficial to you in your recovery journey?
Early on, I did. So I'm just going to tell a little story here. But when I first got sober, I went to AA and NA, and I immersed myself in it, and did what they told me to do. I got a sponsor, 90 meetings in 90 days, and worked the steps, and that is what worked for me. That was my pathway that worked for me at that time. And then we adopted two of my children. We adopted from foster care as babies, and they were both addicted to different drugs when they came out. And so my husband and I had to get through that. So we kind of stopped going to meetings during that time, because we had two little newborns that needed us. And when we stopped going to meetings, and then the kids, they got older, now they're 9. And so we've kind of gotten away from the program. And then when I came to work here, and then I don't live in this county. So I was like, what is BW Rock? What is Dry Dock? What are those places, and what are they doing? And I just did not understand that, like, I'm literally learning and I love it. Like, I love it for that. There's more to offer to people, because the 12-step meetings they're not for everyone. And so I love that there's more choices, because when I got sober, there were not other choices. So I love this. I love it for people.
You made a good point that years ago it was really 12 step was the only way to go. And there were so many different avenues to be able to help support. And like you said, therapy is not always it, but there's a lot of other ways to be able to do that as well too. What about as a peer? So as a peer, when other people are starting their journey of recovery, say you're working with an individual, is it just jump into recovery right away? What are some of the steps that really build that bridge and start giving that support to someone who's starting their journey of recovery as a peer recovery coach?
Um, no, I don't just go in and go, do you want to work the 12 steps? Do you want to, you know what I mean? Like first we go in and we build a rapport with them because people aren't going to sit down and share and talk with us if, they don't know us. And so I build a rapport with my individuals, just spend time with them. We go for walks, whatever they want to do, and just getting to know them a little bit. And then when there's a time that is appropriate for me to share a part of my story with them, to give them hope. And, and then I feel like we just know when the right time comes that we can maybe introduce that to them. So yeah, we don't just jump in, we work our way there.
I think that's part of the beauty of being a peer is that you've, walked the walk or the same walk and that you can talk to someone from a different level of understanding and empathy versus someone who hasn't experienced that before, which makes a lot of sense. Another question is, as a peer recovery coach, when did you sort of know or start to think about doing this as a living or career or getting certified? What was that transition like for you? And what moment did you thought, maybe I can go down this different path of being able to help others in this way? When did you know you were ready?
Um, it kind of happened. I didn't know I was ready. I worked with as a mental health assistant with children, like you said earlier, before, and two things. That one of the babies that I talked about, who is now 9, she has fetal alcohol syndrome, and so I need to be home at night to help my husband with her. And when you work with kids, you're after school. I worked from 3 o'clock on, and so I missed. I wasn't there to help with her. I have a high schooler. I missed going to his track meets and soccer games. And so I started saying, I need to work somewhere that I can work during the day. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I looked online, I didn't even know what that meant to be peer support. And so then when I got here and it just opened this whole new world to me. I was just amazed that I get to do this. Like, I feel very fortunate. But I started out as a certified peer, and then when I was offered to go over to IDDT and become a certified recovery coach, I love it. I'm a sponge again. I love the learning, the stuff that I'm learning. It's amazing.
For those that aren't real familiar with peer supports and certified peer supports, are they all over? Is it just a St. Clair County community mental health thing? Do we have these individuals that do this throughout the state of Michigan? If you could share a little bit on that.
They're all over. We're everywhere. When I just went to training a couple of weeks ago for the week, they came from everywhere. Marquette, all over. Like, we all just were in this 20 of us in this classroom, learning, and I made some really good friends. I've met some really great people being able to do this, and so yeah, we're all over the place.
Great. And it's not just a step where it's one day someone decides they want to do this. There's actually some training and different things that go along with it, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So it's something that is a journey, but a different type of journey for you as well too. Wonderful.
Absolutely. And I will say that yesterday when I was at Walk a Mile, we had a gentleman who from St. Clair County CMH who got to speak a little bit. And so I spent a little bit of time talking with him, and he said, I want to be a peer peer recovery coach. And that was so like just awesome to hear that he, had been going through here and then he wants to become a coach. I think that's really cool.
So it's motivating to others as well too. Someone had just talked about or made a comment that they supervise peers and how important of a role it is with a bunch of exclamation points. So a lot of people supporting that as well too, which is great, great. So we're kind of winding down. I know at first Sue was like, "Oh, I hope I can fill an hour, right?" But we're pretty much right there. So you've shared so much. Thank you. A lot of people commenting. Thanks for sharing your journey. Congratulations on all you've accomplished. Such an important thing to and just a lot of thank you for sharing everything that you've shared today. Anything that you want to just mention, say in closing before we kind of wind things down?
No, I will say that I am amazed that this community, like, CMH, BWR, like Port Huron in general, like being around the police, and firefighters on Saturday, just this community just really cares about their people. When I go to the free store, when I go to, take some of my people to get food, this community really cares about our people, and we're really fortunate. And I love my job. I love what I do here, the people that I work with, and and I know it feels hopeless sometimes, but don't lose hope. And that phone, it feels really heavy, but if you can just pick it up and call someone.
Don't lose hope. Well, thank you
Yep.
so much, Sue. Again, a lot of people just commenting on congratulations on, passing your test, and thanks for sharing everything that you had. So we appreciate that so much. So we're going to work on concluding up today and move into our wrap up. So again, we want to thank you, Sue, for taking the time, the preparation today. You did phenomenal. We want to thank everyone who attended this session as well today. We hope that you found the information that which Sue shared valuable, especially about being able to hold that hope for others, and holding hope for individuals themselves. We want to also remind everyone that today's presentation is just one of many webinars scheduled throughout this month. There are still more to come. I believe the last presentation is on September 27th. So to see information and register for any of the additional sessions, please visit our website at scccmh.org. You'll find the Recovery Summit under the Events tab under Recovery Summit. For those of you that have attended too, and if you're looking for a PowerPoint from a previous presentation or recordings, that will help direct you in which way to go as well. So again, before we wrap up, we really appreciate your feedback. We request that anyone requesting professional CEs completes the survey that will pop up right after the presentation is over. We would love to hear any feedback. We ask that you take a few moments to complete it. Your input is really crucial in helping us improve anything for future planning for next year's Recovery Summit, and how we can better meet your needs and support our recovery community. So for those of you that are also requesting professional credits, we want to remind all of you that after the Recovery Summit is over, which is September 27th, allow about 2 to 3 weeks after it's concluded. Your certificate will be emailed to you. It'll be one certificate, and it will have marked off all of the sessions that you attended. So thanks again for joining us today. Thank you so much, Sue. We appreciate it, and we hope to see many of you back at the next webinar. Take care.